is. Do you know yourself?
No.
Thank you. Thank you so much for an answer. Anyone else? See, I'm not sitting, so how should I say? I'm not sitting in front of you. This is a virtual platform. Please reply.
To some extent.
To some extent. Brilliant. Now let me ask you this, my second question. How long or when or what age did you actually start understanding or identifying yourself? These are extremely, how should I say, uncomfortable questions, uncomfortable realities, and in some way, something that we were hoping that as years goes on, as work goes on, as life goes on, that we will find the answers, we will find the purpose, we will find the reasons, and so on and so forth. And there comes a time where a 5-year-old knows more compared to a 90-year-old. How many of us agree? Sometimes that's also the case. So today I actually want to touch just a little bit, and I want to simplify it because for two reasons I want to simplify it. One, that you're already coming to Maven, you're already doing your bit in terms of recognizing, in terms of choosing, in terms of growing yourself. So a big round of applause to each and everyone who comes and takes advantage of a platform like Maven. And the second reason why I've simplified it is because with so many things happening around us, with so many things, so many coaches, so many trainers, so many books, so many authors coming out and talking about personal development, it can get slightly confusing. And I've broken it down just a little bit, maybe the tip of the iceberg, because there is so much about the self that needs to be explored, that needs to be understood, that needs to be identified for you to actually be in sync with it. But today, because there is obviously just a half an hour session, 45-minute session, I'm just going to touch the tip of the iceberg. And I hope that by the end of the session, you can find some clarity, because that is my goal. Tiny bit of clarity. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. And I want to talk about, just a minute. All right. Can you all see my screen? Can you all see me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? All right, fantastic. So to begin with, at the core of us, at the core of who we are, we're all human beings, right? And I'll tell you this, before I move on, there can be a difference of thought, there can be a difference of mindset, there can be a difference of approach, and that's perfectly fine. This is how I see it and how I can present it. If there is another perspective, because there is not one, there are many, right? We can have a healthy discussion right in the end, but I want you to just take this in with an open opportunity, with open clarity, with open everything. So at the core of who we are, we're all human beings, right? But we live in 4 worlds at the same time every single day. The 4 worlds are what? Our physical, our mental, our emotional, and our spiritual. This is a very basic concept, right? Now, when we live in 4 worlds every single day, our identity is also different in all our spheres. In the physical sphere, we're constantly identified as our name, as our gender, the age, right? We are identified with the physical characteristics. The person is short, tall, thin, fat, gray hair, black hair, blonde hair, almond eyes, brown eyes, blue eyes, you name it. Fair, dusky, you name it. Physical characteristics. Identification. By identification, I also mean your birthmarks, your moles, any kind of scarring, all those. Passport पे लिखा होता ना, identification mark. कैसा पता लगेगा कि आपको? Right? Our identity in the physical plane comes by the name, the gender, the age, the physical characteristics that we live by. In the emotional, we work with our positives. What are the positive emotions? That person is always jolly, extremely excited, always happy. While you're also living with something which is constantly negative, you get identified, you get labeled. You get labeled by constantly being in a sad mood, in a crappy mood, in a complaining mode. Not great, but you get identified by that. Someone sitting in a conference who doesn't know you can identify you by your name, gender, physical characteristics, and then looking at your emotions. You are living your emotions every single day, right? And what does it do? It tells me about your mindset. Are you a person who works with the rational mind? Or are you someone who works with the emotional mind? All these characteristics are labeled because that is who you are getting up to be every single day. When you get identified by your rational mindset, you get identified with the person to say, "Is insan ke paas jao." You know what? He is very intelligent. Very intelligent. He knows a lot of things. Itne experiences ho rakhe hai na कि they can guide you in the right direction. Another person can actually be an emotional person. They're working from the emotional mindset. And what does working with the emotional mindset mean? It means that the person is always going to throw a tantrum. Always going to behave in a way which is emotionally disturbing. Sometimes it gets exhausting. How many of us agree? Being around people who are working from the emotional mindset can sometimes exhaust you. Then you're also someone who is an atheist, doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in the higher power, nothing. Science rules. Everything that can be proven, I will believe it. There is no higher power. Or you're someone who's constantly religious. These are just the basic, I'm telling you, basic. But this is a start point for you, a big start point. So you get in the 4 worlds that you live in every single day, you are identified in every world by some manner or the other. And somewhere you are labeled and judged. Unfortunately, that is the truth. Now, at the core of everything, we're still a human being, right? We all agree we're human beings. But do you feel that humans are also also understood with the values that they have. You as a self are an amalgamation of the values that you've been taught. Other than the four worlds that you live in every single day, you also encapsulate values. You also encapsulate behavior. How many of us agree? And before I move forward, I actually want a few of you to tell me in the chat box, what else can you be identified with when it comes to the self? Either you can use the chat box or you can unmute yourself, anything. When it comes to the self, what are the things that you can be identified with? All right, I'll make it simpler. So we are identified with the values that we grew up. True. You can always spot a person who has good values. You can always identify a person who has good behavior, bad behavior, anything. See, positive and negative go hand in hand. You can get identified for either. Correct? So you get identified other than your four worlds that you live in every single day by the values. You can get identified for your behaviors. You can get identified for your language. Basic, right? Very basic. But language as what? I'm not talking about mother tongue. I'm talking about what you say, how you say. Are you someone who abuses? Are you someone who uses gentle words? Are you someone who's very specific? The language. You will remember someone who treats you very well in a conversation where they are choosing the words sensibly, where they're giving you respect. You will remember that conversation with that person. You will judge the other person. You will start recognizing who they are. And you'll also recognize and remember the person who abused you. It goes both ways. What kind of language you use? So you, as a self, are also identified with the language. But you're also identified by the actions. How many of us agree? You are identified by the actions that you do, by the actions and the choices that you make. Because more than anything, more than words, actions also play a very, very big role in our day and age. Every single day that we wake up, we do our actions, good or bad, doesn't matter. We are identified by it. Look at your own family. Very easy example. Very easy example. If there is someone in the family who has a habit of not closing the cabinet doors after they've done their job or after they've picked up, the utensil or they have a habit of doing that. That action is only specific to them. Every time a cabinet door will be open, kisne kiya hoga. Very simple. The self takes on the actions that it does every single day. But you are also identified by the dreams. How many of us know this? We are identified by our dreams. And the dreams we can only talk about right now within our family. Our family doesn't understand the dreams, but as an example, I would like to give you for all the leaders that we've had in the world. All the leaders we've had in the world. They've all had a dream. We associate the action that they're going to do, we associate them, we identify them by the dream that they have. They are the ones who are pursuing it every single day. In today's day and age, the dreamers are the people who have achieved. the big billionaire brands, the Mark Zuckerberg, the Steve Jobs, the Elon Musk, all of those brands, that category. Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, you name it. Big names. The dreams that they've had. You start identifying them. But you're also identifying them as a human being by the standards that they hold their life to. Now, what are standards? Standards are simple. Each one of us lives every single day by some form of standard that we hold ourselves to. Something. We are someone who always know इसके आगे नहीं और इससे कम नहीं, हम यहां तक कर सकते हैं, हमें पता है. Capability. What do you understand? Or what is your last resort? What do you understand that this is the maximum I can spread myself to? What do you understand when it comes to मैं इससे ज्यादा कर ही नहीं सकता? Your standards, your boundaries, your understanding of who you are. Every single one of us knows and lives with standards. We don't know it because we are not aware of it, but we live with standards. And the standards could be as basic as, I will not do these specific house chores. As simple as that. It could be a standard for you. So as a human being, you're already working with the four worlds every single day. Your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual. On top of all of that, you have your values that you are identified with. You have your behaviors, you have your language, you have your actions, you have your dreams, you have your standards. Can you think of anything else that can come up when it comes to you and identifying the self of who you are that can add to this list? Anyone? All right. You get identified by the books you read. You see, at the core of who you are, you're a human being, and all that you learn shapes you. All that you watch shapes you. All that you've been taught shapes you. Right? So the kind of knowledge, the kind of learning, the kind of information you grasp every single day shapes you. Right? And I'll tell you this, that I said in the beginning, that the fact that all of you are coming and taking advantage of a platform like Maven is fantastic. Why? Because you're already prioritizing your personal growth over everything else. Correct? Now, this is where it gets tricky. If you are someone who's constantly going to watch Saas Bahu type serials, the effect you're going to have every single day will be very different. Extremely different. How many of us agree? Compared to someone who's constantly watching personal development, series. It's a huge disparity. You can identify the person, you can find the depth of the other person. But I'll tell you this, the reality is 99% of the people don't know themselves. Right? But the unfortunate reality, more than this, is that they don't care. 99% of the people don't know themselves. Is this factually correct? Actually, this is not factually correct, but I'll tell you this. Factually correct is the next statement. 99% of them don't care about it. just don't care. They don't care that every single day they have an opportunity to actually choose different paths every single day. And a lot of times people start chasing peace, some form of satisfaction, life's purpose. They're all running, they're all chasing, they're all going towards it. You know, there's this proverb that says that if you can't go out, go in. Like, you know, all the answers are within. These are all the universal truths, right? But no one wants to find the answers within. This is just a very broad spectrum today that I'm actually covering, very broad, simply because I want you to just recognize that you are living in 4 worlds. You are responsible for all the values, all the behaviors, all the actions, all the language, all the dreams, all the knowledge that you put in, all the standards that you live by, everything, every single day. And if you start recognizing it, that can just be the start point. Because I'll tell you, the number one reason people keep chasing inner peace is because they do two things. Two things. They keep self-correcting themselves. Tell me in the chat box or pick up your digital hand and tell me if you connect with this. Each one of us is chasing inner peace. Inner peace, we are chasing it on the outside, right? Because all we're doing is justifying our actions and our intentions because we're only self-correcting. We're only correcting it at our end. We have no person, no accountability partner. We have no one who takes a objective decision to correct you. We on our own self, on our own end, decide कि नहीं हमने उसको सुधार लिया, हमने उसको ठीक कर लिया, and now everything is fine, everything is perfect, everything is hunky dory. Eventually, this self-correction mode does not give us the results that we want, does not give us the inner peace, because we're only justifying our actions. Tell me if every justification of your actions and your intentions has ever gotten you inner peace. It never gets you inner peace. Never. ये तो मैं भी दावे के साथ कह सकती हूँ. I might not be as old, but I know this for a fact. If I keep justifying my actions, I will never be able to achieve inner peace. And the second reason where people keep chasing is because they refuse to recognize that they are part of the problem. How many of you resonate with this? Does this make sense? We refuse to recognize that we are part of the problem. देखना ही नहीं है. उसके बाद सेल्फ करेक्शन और सेल्फ जजमेंट और अपनी जस्टिफाइंग में चले जाते हैं. Eventually, we never achieve it. We never achieve it. And what does this do? This happens because of lack of self-awareness. पता ही नहीं. Because we don't know who we are. We don't know the values that we hold. We don't know the belief systems that we've been holding on to. Beliefs is also one of the reasons how you can identify yourself. What belief systems you've been carrying on from your parents' generation to now your children's generation, while you're passing it on. शायद उनके काम का नहीं है, but we've still taken it from our past and then we've pushed it into our future. Lack of self-awareness. It starts with unwillingness to vulnerability. What is vulnerability? Nobody in today's day and age, in this space, in a space where we are not safe, willing to be vulnerable, to actually talk about the fears, the deepest fears, the deepest desires, the deepest problem areas, the deepest challenges, the deepest issues, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it because this kind of environment was never set up for anyone. Nobody was told, nobody was taught. Formal education never told you that it was important to take care of your emotions. We were all supposed to do bhed chal mein, right from schooling to engineering to doctorate. Everything was just cramming and pushing out information into our heads and then pushing it out onto pieces of paper. We were not functioning as human beings. You will reach a point of burnout very soon. This generation, our generation, maybe a couple of authors before me, I'm sure, because I'm not the first one who's creating this wave. There are so many. They've all spoken about the fact that you have to start understanding where the problem arises. But the lack of awareness will not get you to even start. And the fact that you're unwilling to be vulnerable, that makes it even tougher. Because if you are not willing to be vulnerable, you are only latching on to attachment. And the attachment is to what? The attachment is to an identity which is very pseudo. Attachment is to an identity which is not permanent. The attachment is to a feeling, an emotion which is not continuously happening with you every single day. You're latching on to an attachment. Your attachment to your pseudo personality, your attachment to something that you're not every single day blocks you from being vulnerable and never helps you look at yourself. Eventually, you give up on your dreams because to start with, when you had dreams as a young kid, as a young adult, when you had dreams, when all of this attachment side comes in, where you don't want to let go of your identity, which you have created, you give up on your dreams. And eventually, at how life is going with you, you start blaming, you start complaining, you start making excuses, you point fingers at family, you point fingers at the education system, you point fingers at spouses, you point fingers at children, you point fingers at each and every one who did not give you the opportunity for you to grow in life. You get bitter, you find resentment, you start hating everyone, and you keep making excuses for your bad behavior. Why? Because you are holding on to your attachment. There was a movie, I don't know if you all remember this movie, Dam Laga Ke Haisha. And I remember this one time, the Ayushmann Khurrana, his best friend was getting married, and the boy came in the house with a mithai ka dabba, and Ayushmann Khurrana very blatantly, like lashes out to him, and he says very openly, he says कि मेरे को पता है कि कितने पैसे देके तूने इतनी engineering करी है. And that friend openly mocks back and he says, what has stopped you? तुम्हें किसने रोक लिया? तुम्हारे किसी ने पैर पकड़ लिया, तुम्हारे किसी ने हाथ पकड़ लिया, तुम्हारे किसी ने दिमाग पे ताले लगा दिया. And at that point, I remember I was just like, what are we pointing fingers at others for? Simple dialogues. But that's the reality, right? And sometimes you get information from random sources. This was one of them. किसने मना किया है? कौन रोक रहा है? We are stopping ourselves. The attachment of our pseudo self, of our personality, or we don't want to give up. And you don't trust yourself. This is a very hard truth. You don't trust yourself. You don't know if you're going to make it. The fear cripples you. जो डर है वो इतना ज्यादा बैठ जाएगा ना that you don't even trust that you can do it. You don't trust it. And at the end of everything, you feel like your purpose is over. You've done your responsibility when it hasn't even begun. Your life's purpose is different from your life's responsibilities that you have been living every single day. Let me tell you this. Your life's purpose, if it was meant only to take care of the family, was only to make sure that they were clothed well, they were eaten, they were given the food well, they were supposed to be taken care of well. If that was your life purpose, then you have achieved it. If that was not your life purpose, then it hasn't even begun. But in the spiritual world that you live in every single day, even you know, life's purpose as a human being is only to grow. And the more you grow to be of service to someone else, is more the blessings, more the gratitude, all of that is going to come over. The fact that you're serving, when you're taking care of someone else as a person, that can be a purpose because that is selfless. That works as a purpose. The rest, don't even know it. You're in the 1.1% if you're already lived your purpose. But don't confuse it with life's responsibilities. That's all I'm saying. So if this is your gentle reminder, if this session today at 8:30 in the morning is a gentle reminder from the universe to go ahead and discover your perspectives, your beliefs, your truths, your past behaviors, your fears, your social conditioning, your mindset, all of that, take it. Take this opportunity to find yourself, small bit. It could be anything. And let me tell you this, don't make resolutions for the year, which you will never complete. Do something every quarter, do something every month. Recognize and start taking actions. You will surprise yourself. Let me tell you this. You will surprise yourself. But wo chance leke to dekho. Because the law of attraction works for everyone. How many of us know this? For so many sessions of Maven that we talk about, the spiritual side, all sessions we talk about, which is going on meditations, everything, almost every second session is on meditation. Every second session is on spirituality. You know, everything is energy. Everyone over here who attends Maven's morning sessions knows this. Everything is energy. Law of attraction works for each human being. It doesn't take care of your gender. It doesn't take care of your age. It doesn't look at you've had a very bad past. It doesn't look at anything. It's a universal law. It's subjective and it is objective to each and every one. So what you are on the inside is what you will attract on the outside. But who you are on the inside, if you don't know, you will keep attracting something on the outside without knowing, without any awareness, and you will keep cribbing. How many of you know this? Law of attraction, very basic law. Very basic, right? वो ये नहीं देखता कि 5 साल का बच्चा है, 90 साल का आदमी है, पोलियो रिडन पेशेंट है या कैंसर रिडन पेशेंट है. Nothing. It says it goes beyond these measures. It works with you. Who you are on the inside will attract what's on the outside. And I'll give you the perfect model of life today. There are 3 models of life, right? Which is a do, have, and be, which is a have, do, and be, and which is a be, do, and have. And I will explain each and every one. First, I will talk about only one statement is true. Can anyone guess which statement is true? And I'll explain the statements. The do, be, and have, the do, have, and be, sorry. The first statement, which is the do, have, and be, means you work out, you do a certain activity, right? You create a body, so you have the body. So you do workout, you have the body, and then you be happy. That is the first model I'm talking about, right? So in the business sense, it could be you do the business, you have the money, and then you be confident. That's the first model I'm talking about of life. The do, have, and be. The problem is the conditioning is based on the doing. The conditioning is based on the doing. The second model of life is the have, do, and be. What is the have, do, and be? You have the money. You love doing the things that you love. And you then feel and be inspired and motivated. So first you need to have it. So first you need to have the time. Then do the important things. And eventually be purposeful. Do you feel that there is a problem with that? The conditioning revolves around the have. The first two don't work for you. Do not work for you. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the answer. The perfect model of life is the be, do, and have. Very simply put. What is the be, do, and have? The be, do, and have is where you wake up every single day. Be who you are at the end of the day, every single day. You be who you are. You do your actions and choices based on who you are every single day. And eventually, in the course of time, in the entire universal law, you will have the results, the goals, and the experiences of life. How many of you know that this is the perfect model of life? Unfortunately, what are we doing? Because we don't know who we are always crossing our own boundaries. We are always being hypocritical of ourselves. We are always, how should I say, disappointing ourselves. We are not being authentic to ourselves.
Sareena ji, good morning.
Good morning.
May I have a question? Ask a question?
जी.
ये लैंडमार्क में भी हमें सिखाया गया था.
अच्छा. I don't know this.
Yes, okay. Perhaps you have not done the landmark. Anyway. But ये अपने आप में बी होना, ये भी एक मुश्किल काम है मेरे लिए.
सबके लिए.
अब बार बार मनी अट्रैक्ट करने के लिए यही कहते हैं, पहले अपने आप को रिच महसूस करो, रिच महसूस करो. रिच महसूस ही नहीं होता तो आएगा कहां से? That is the issue.
Yes. But I want to ask you this. आपका क्वेश्चन इस पे कि
बी कैसे हो जाए?
बी कैसे हो? Beginning of the session, I had asked everyone, there are a lot of fears and there will always be resistance, right? Everyone lives with the resistance. Everyone lives with the fear. If you have not had a past जहां पे आपको वो एक trust factor आपको अपने साथ built हुआ है, where you are confident in yourself that you can do it, your mind will keep reminding you that it will not happen, right? For example, if I say and if I think in my mind, middle class concept and सोच को break करना बहुत difficult है. If I constantly believe that I am going to be the person who will be making crores in the next quarter, or I will be making crores in the next 1 year, my background or my past has not given me those, how should I say, those clues
Yeah.
for me to remember it or for me to recognize it. So I will not trust it.
True.
Eventually, my fear will drive my actions.
Mm-hmm.
If my fear drives my action, I will never be able to take my action. Eventually, I have to reach a point where I fight my fear every single day to say, you know what? I need to recognize ये thought मेरे को दिमाग में डाला किसने सबसे पहले?
Mm-hmm.
Who told you that it was not possible? Let me ask. Was it a pattern from school? Was it a pattern from the parents? Was it told to you that it is not possible? Because see, बहुत सारी चीजें हम बहुत unconsciously अपने साथ लेके चल रहे हैं.
True, very true.
Right, and that has also become part of our personality. जहां हम यही सोच रहे हैं कि पैसे झाड़ पे ही उगते हैं, पैसे झाड़ पे ही उगते हैं, because ये इतनी रेपिटेटिव मोड पे बोला जा रहा है, बोला जा रहा है, बोला जा रहा है. अब वो क्या रहा है, जब वो रेपिटेशन जब बन चुका है, वो बन गया परमानेंट. कंक्रीट, गीली कंक्रीट डाल डाल के, गीली सीमेंट डाल डाल के वो कंक्रीटाइज हो गया है. आज की डेट में उसको तोड़ना
बहुत मुश्किल है.
बहुत मुश्किल है. और इवेंचुअली हमारा दिमाग पता क्या कहता है, कौन करेगा यार, छोड़ दे.
छोड़ दे. Very true.
Eventually our mind likes to go back to our comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Our
True.
mind our mind hates change. So our mind will tell us all the things that we are doing wrong when we are changing.
Mm.
So it will give you the most amount of resistance.
Mhm.
But I'll give you one aspect. If you can work on breaking your fear, it will take some time, but it will shut up after a while. एक पॉइंट आएगा जहां आप उसको तोड़ोगे. पहले फियर को तोड़ना है, उसके बाद माइंडसेट को तोड़ सकते हैं. क्योंकि फियर और बिलीफ को पहले तोड़ना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि वो 30 साल का, 40 साल का, 60 साल का सुना हुआ है. माइंडसेट उसके बाद ही शिफ्ट हो पाएगा.
Okay, thank you.
This is a lifelong journey, right? I mean, if I ask you, if you know yourself, you might say yes. But if I ask you कि आपने कौन से उम्र में you started knowing yourself, you might say maybe 50. It would have been easier maybe if you would have known yourself maybe in 30. It would have been easier if someone actually guided us in terms of understanding that ये भी important होता है. You know?
Yes.
So every generation had a very different struggle. The grandparents' generation was very different when it came from the partition era. The parent generation was very difficult when they had to make sure that their children got education, because that was the focus. This generation is very specific, where we need to understand there is beyond education.
Very true. Very true.
There is beyond the era. That was एक time था, वो चला गया. You know, the partition था, वो चला गया.
हमारे पेरेंट्स के टाइम पे था. It was first parents struggle है. Life is struggle.
Exactly.
उनके लिए struggle थी. और उसके बाद ये अब हमारी हमने बच्चों की जनरेशन है, उनके लिए जनरेशन फॉर कंफर्ट है.
Exactly.
They are fighting for the comforts because they have already got the things that they wanted. मकान उनके पास, सबसे पहले हमारे लिए तो यही होता था, मकान है, मकान के लिए सारी जिंदगी स्ट्रगल करते थे.
Exactly.
और अब उनके पास मकान है क्योंकि किस्तों पे सब कुछ मिल जाता है. So that's how they are living. अब उनके लिए स्ट्रगल नहीं है. तो उनके लिए अब उनके बच्चों की, जो उनके बच्चे हैं, उनके लिए स्ट्रगल है, क्योंकि बच्चे ऑलरेडी इतनी चीजें जानते हैं, वो उनसे सवाल करते हैं. हमने अपने टाइम पे बच्चों से सवाल किए ही नहीं.
Exactly.
अपने माँ बाप से सवाल किए ही नहीं. अब बच्चों ने हमारे जितने किए, हमने उतना जितनी समझती रिजॉल्व कर दिया. अब उनको फिर से लेसन पढ़ना पड़ता है. दे आर आल्सो रीडिंग एंड दे आर आल्सो कन्वेइंग दिस थिंग. यही बिलीव इस तरह से ही चेंज हो रहा है. मेरे को लगता है यही और तरीका, और कोई तरीका है ही नहीं.
See, environment changed, the mindset changed, the struggle changed. Generation to generation, decade to decade, everything changed. The fact is, we are stuck somewhere with our own fears and beliefs in some era. हम कहीं अटके हुए हैं. अब वो किस तरह अटके हुए और कहाँ अटके हुए, वो जानना हमारी प्रॉब्लम है. Because you know why? और कोई नहीं करेगा. That's the reality. Nobody cares about the problem. It's your problem. It is your responsibility. It is your due diligence. Eventually, पता क्या होगा? You will end up being a very bitter man even at 90, even at 100, and it is not going to get you anything if you don't keep progressing forward to say, you know what, let me try this. And मैं वही कह रही हूँ, rather than having New Year goals and saying that okay, we'll try to do this in 1 year, try having smaller goals, maybe that you can find someone who can help you, find a mentor, find someone you can invest with, try to break a pattern. Because the competition is with yourself.
Yes.
You're not competing with the world, you're not competing with the next generation of your son. You're competing with yourself to say, I want to break it for myself because I'm miserable. Right?
True. Thank you. Thank you.
Do find someone. My best wishes again, always.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I joined late.
That's perfectly fine. All right. So everyone, that was my session for you today. How do you identify yourself? And this was just the tip of the iceberg. You will have the entire recording. I'm sure Shabana is going to